Hello there, I'm Dark Shades, and I am broadcasting out of the east of England into your homes, onto your phones, onto whatever platform you're using. Welcome to my channel. You're welcome to subscribe, like, share. Now, what I tend to do is sometimes, because I run two channels, one is Black White News, which is more political and social issues, that kind of stuff. But sometimes what happens or what I broadcast on Black White News kind of falls over into what I do on Dark Shades, which is to offer some kind of suggestions or information on how to feel better about ourselves. So today I did a video on Black White News about identity and your life and how you view that. And then I decided to focus on, for this purpose, on our identity and how that governs the way we feel. Once again, I wrote it out because these are the kind of things that are not automatic with me, but somehow I don't want to say a voice, but sometimes I feel inspired to share certain aspects of information. And today is one such day. Okay, so how important is your identity? Is your life attached to your identity? For many of us, it is. Many of us feel that without an identity, we do not belong anywhere. We are nobodies, nomads, roaming this earthly plane. And why I say that is because if you can imagine, we have been made to feel, a lot of us, as though we don't belong. You know, a lot of us who came here through our parents or our grandparents or our aunties or whichever relative decided that our place would be the United Kingdom or England as it is now known, didn't realize that they were taking a part of us that they could never ever replace. And that part of us is our identity. If we had been born in a place where we lived with people who looked like us, spoke like us, behaved like us, we wouldn't feel so alien in a different country. But what has happened is that we have now found ourselves in a different country with people who do not look like us, and we have learned to adapt. But in learning to adapt, we have been assigned labels and we have been given identities, whether it's Black Caribbean, Afro-American, Caribbean English, Black British, mixed race, whatever they decide to call us. We have had to ascribe to those titles and those labels because that is how they monitor our transgressions, our migration habits, our spending habits, and they do it for monitoring purposes. So they want to classify each and every one of us in order to acquire that kind of information. And so we are then assigned an identity. Sometimes we don't like that identity. In the past, we were called wogs, we've been called coons, we've been called niggers, we've been called blacks as a derogatory term, not as how we hail it now with a sense of pride. We have been called coloureds, we have then been called Afro-Caribbean, Black Caribbean, Black English, Black British, whatever. We have just been assigned all these different labels and categorizations, and sometimes they make us feel different. They make us feel as though we do not belong, because can you imagine if there was no labels, people wouldn't have to be striving for targets, people wouldn't be racial profiling, people wouldn't be discriminating because they'd have nothing to measure it against. So as we are now, many of us feel kind of lost because we don't have an identity, but we have to try and give ourselves a constant identity of who we are. Most of us are children of the universe. We are just children of our mothers. We are children of the earth. That's the only identity we really need. That identity is constant. That identity doesn't change with the wind or change with a certain inspiration or change so it doesn't offend anyone. It's constant. And if you have a constant identity, yes, you can accept the external identity that's assigned to you, but you don't have to react to it or get caught up in it in any way. And that can make you feel much more self assured and much stronger. And you don't have to feel, I do not belong, because you do belong to the earth. You do belong in this world. You are a part of the human race. So you have value in and of yourself. So, how important is it to have an identity? It is only as important as the credibility we give it. If we accept, like I said, that we're all children of the universe and no one has control over our destiny except the Almighty, then our identity as anything other than the children of God or the Almighty is obsolete. Who says we should have an identity? Well, I've already said this, but the world, the system, the government says we must have an identity so they can classify us and place us into a category. But whilst that is important for their monitoring purposes, do we have to relegate importance to it, especially if the absence of it makes us feel worthless? I think not. So we can accept that a category exists, whether it's black and minority ethnic, whether it's black Caribbean, whether it's black, whatever it is, we can accept that it exists, but we don't have to assign importance to that relegation. How has our identity been acquired so far? Most of us have acquired our identity through our parents, their birthplace, their cultures, their rituals and customs. We have adapted to a dual identity by acclimatizing ourselves to the identity attributed to us in the country we are now living in. What has been assigned, ascribed, or assumed is not our identity. It's just a layer of control and classification. If your identity did not matter, how different would your life be? Firstly, as a black person, you would not be racially profiled. It would not be important for positive discrimination to be on the agenda. You would not feel obliged to behave in a certain way. You would feel free to go and do as you pleased within the confines of the law, of course. You would not need to assign yourself a language, certain types of clothing and styling. Is your identity or lack of holding you hostage? How do you feel when you're classified as a black and minority ethnic, an Afro-Caribbean, a black African, a black English, a black Caribbean, mixed race, interracial, Asian? I wonder if you ever think, can't I just be a person? Having labels, especially when it comes to mass vaccination, can make you feel vulnerable, discriminated against, different. It can lead you to believe, why can't I be treated like everyone else? Why am I always made to feel like an outcast, as though there is something wrong with me, as though there is something sinister or evil attached to my existence? Can we free ourselves from these labels? If we accept that labels are man-made and hold no real value, then we can free ourselves from it. We do not have to be who they label us to be. We can be who we choose to be and all that goes with it. Superficially, we can accept labels because they have been legislated, but in our hearts, we know who we are. And we are capable of, and we know what we're capable of. We do not have to allow labels to classify us and define us. Labeling, categorizing, stereotyping can create a sense of feeling less than. It is up to each individual to reclaim their worth and their value. Identity could be something that has been created to separate, distinguish, or differentiate for whatever purpose. Your personal identity is what is important. It is what should be constant. That means, regardless of whether you're called a nigger, a coon, a monkey, a black bastard, you're not associated or linked to these labels and therefore do not have to respond or react to them. You know who you are, and it means that you do not react to negative feedback, offensive terms, because you know your true value. Building your identity means you will never feel controlled or misguided. It means you will hold firm to who you believe you are, which is a perfect child of the universe. No point resisting the identity society has placed on you. It is temporary. It is superficial. Know that the identity you have assigned yourself is the one you aspire to and the one that makes you feel great about yourself every day. And I hope that resonated with you. Bye bye.